All right, go for it.
Welcome to an unusual midday boiled sports podcast. Half handsome hour, half basketball beat. All the fat has been cut from this process. You've got Anish here and Boiler Dowd, and we're excited. We're a little wound up. I'm caffeinated right now. I've burned off a lot of the rage from the a couple of the issues at the end of the game last night, and we're looking at Purdue heading to the second round of the NCAA tournament with would you call it? I can't say comfortable just because of the past, but a moderately comfortable 10-point win over Vermont last night.
So Anish, do you have any? It was a comfortable win, but it wasn't an easy win, right? It turned into a comfortable win, and it turned into a win that it was a 10-point win. You look at it, Purdue shot a lot better than Vermont. Even in the first half, Purdue was shooting 50%, while Vermont was shooting about 40, like sub 40, about 38. So they ended around 45 from the 45 or 50% from the field for Purdue over, and then 44 for Vermont. It's like, the better team won. But the issue was turnovers in the first half. Like there were so many turnovers that gifted Vermont so many extra possessions. I don't care what caliber of team you are. That's how teams in the tournament win. They create extra possessions. They grab offensive rebounds, and they force turnovers. They win the turnover battle. And whenever at this level in the tournament, whenever one team gets significantly more opportunities to shoot than the other, it's just like that balance is going to be there no matter what, right?
Right on.
So it's like it created a lot of unneeded tensions. It also didn't help that Vince Edwards, though he played great, we'll touch on that in a second, but though Vince played really, really well in the first half, he was missing a lot of bunnies. He was getting to the rim, but it was just rimming out. Also, Haas wasn't, Haas couldn't dunk I forgot that he could dunk last night. So it's like, I don't know, all that kind of made for a very stressful first half.
Right on. It was, it's interesting. I don't know if you have this, but I'm kind of the Purdue whipping boy at my office. So everybody knows me as the Purdue fan. So if anything's happening and Purdue's playing poorly, my phone starts lighting up with texts from people from Michigan State. Just start, and they shield it as if they're being friendly and funny, and then they just clobber me, right? And so I got a couple texts from different people saying, "Why can't Haas dunk?" Right? Why? How can a guy that big not finish? Right? And then at the same time, you have those turnovers as Purdue tried to pass across all those hands. 6 hands of Vermont players packed into the lane, but Purdue kept making the same mistakes over and over and over, and they would be momentum killers. Right? It looked like they'd either have the comeback because they dropped back by 9 points, and they came back, and it looked like they'd take the lead, and then they were going to take the lead, and then they'd turn the ball over stupidly. Vermont would come down, hit a 3 or something like that. And so I was dealing with people talking trash to me in a semi-polite manner, and it was building along with my tension that I had coming into the game. And it was not a good formula. I was very stressed out. I can't imagine, we had an interesting conversation off of the air, Anish, Jay, Michael, and we were talking about which would be worse, being in our position, being stressed out, or being at the game and playing. And everybody's like, oh, it'd obviously be better to play because you feel like you can do something about it. But I would probably have been physically worthless. Like my hands would have been like just for looks at that point. They would have just been flapping around, So I get it when you see things like, so we talked about the first half, and we're going to try to breeze through things really quickly. In the second half, Vince Edwards hit this gear, right? That was obviously, this is the thing you've been waiting for.
Yeah.
I mean, you have been waiting for that Vince Edwards to do that on that stage for 3 years, right? Maybe 4, I'd say, because as soon as it looked like he was a Purdue lean, you probably started having romantic feelings and thinking, this guy's going to do something special.
I mean, he was Hummel, right? I mean, like his exact skill set was Robbie Hummel, and that was right after we had right after I think that he committed right as Hummel was leaving, and so it was like it made for a really easy comp. They have the same skill set. Neither one is supremely athletically talented, but they both are incredibly crafty. They both have great court vision. Robbie's probably a little bigger, but like they're. I don't know. Vince is a little more crafty with the ball. Robbie's a little more crafty in the post, but it's still like they should have been, I don't know, Vince. And from the moment that he stepped on campus, Vince was really productive. He was filling stat sheets and all this, but he had never taken it to another level. Also, he'd never really disappointed on a big stage. If you actually look at all of the Big Ten tournament games and all of the NCAA, both of the NCAA tournament games, as well as this Vermont one, him dribbling out the clock against Arkansas Little Rock kind of sticks out in our minds. But before that, he'd had a great game, right?
He played well. Yeah, he played really well.
He doesn't seem to shirk from the moment, but he doesn't really take over either, and that was completely different.
That is an excellent segue right there. Okay, you're giving me a perfect segue to this junior class and what they mean to Purdue and what they mean to Painter. And this was another conversation we had where we said, okay, years ago, Painter said, I am done with these guys that have personality problems and that aren't team guys. I'm done with them. I'm moving away from them. I'm going to go after guys that I think are really good team guys, really good program guys, and I'm going to try to build on this base. And he did that with this class, this junior class. So you've got these 4 guys who are really, really good team guys, and it's clear that the culture of Purdue basketball is built around them. But the bad thing is the culture of Purdue basketball is built around them. You've got Vincent Edwards, who seems like an extremely nice guy, kind of a laid-back guy, right? Who's extremely skilled, but he is not stone cold. He is not an assassin. And then you've got PJ Thompson, who is super nice guy, who under pressure clearly has problems, right? And we all love PJ Thompson. I am the PJ Thompson. I think I'm the founder of the fan club. He's the guy that I love. I love the way he plays, right? And then you've got Matthias, who also tends to get quiet in big games. And then you've got Haas, who clearly, if he has a couple things go against him, he forgets how big and strong he is and that he is playing with little kids, right? So these 4 guys, they're very good basketball players, and they're very good teammates, and they don't want to step on anybody's throat. They don't have it in them. So did we see the corner get turned yesterday? In my dream perfect state, it happens where it all clicks at the same time. All of a sudden, PJ Thompson says, I am here for a reason, and I'm going to hit free throws. And then Dakota Matthias says, you know what? I'm taking threes now, right? Like you referenced a minute ago. He didn't even look for his shot, really, except for on 2 places. He had that up and under play, by the way, early in the second half, where he went through 2 Vermont defenders, and he was so deep, and he spun the ball so much. It was an incredible shot, right? And it was him saying, I'm going to score this play, right? Which we don't see a lot from Matthias. You saw it one time versus Michigan, but most of the Michigan game, he had disappeared too. He wasn't looking for a shot. And when he did, he was not himself, right? Can these 4 guys come together? Is it possible to see all 4 of these guys playing their best basketball on a big stage this year? Do you think it's possible? Do you think we can see it versus Iowa State?
All 4 of them? No, I don't. I honestly no. But I do.
I was hoping you wouldn't say that.
I do think that we can expect Vince and PJ. I do think it's completely fair to expect that from Vince and PJ. I think PJ suffers when he has to think about pressure, right? Which is the free throw line. But that's exactly when but when he's in stride and he's 6 or 7 steps outside the 3-point line, all of a sudden, all of those nerves go away. PJ hit the biggest shot last night, right?
So that broke their backs, right? That was about a 26-footer?
Yeah. And it was, oh my God, it was every bit like 2 steps outside of an NBA 3, right? Yeah. I mean, it was incredible. And he
shot another one that almost went down too. Remember that? Right before that. It just rimmed right out. And then when he shot that one, I was like, no. And then the next splash, I was like, that's wet.
Well, so usually whenever PJ hits, like launches from that far out, like if he does it 2 times in a row, the one of them's going down. Like the second one, I have full confidence the second one's going down. But back to your point, I think Vince will take it. I don't think we'll see Vince shirking away, because in the tournament, it's really easy for these really good teams to shut down a post player. And when you're built around a post player, like we saw last year with AJ Hammonds, like we saw last night with Caleb Swanigan, they took that option away. They took away Isaac Haas. Vermont, to be fair, for a team of their caliber, they are a really good defensive team. The metrics love them. They dominated their competition. Defensively, their pack line defense was really good, so it's much easier for a team to shut down the post, to completely deny the post, than it is to deny a ball handling wing like that. So right. I think this dynamic needs to hold. I think it needs to be Vince Edwards taking over and Biggie Swanigan saying, don't worry. And he's the kind of personality to do it. Biggie Swanigan saying, I will do literally everything else. Don't worry about it.
Yes.
And right. That's why that's why I came out from last night. The big takeaway for me for last night is Vince Edwards is awesome, and Caleb Swanigan is the National Player of the Year. National Player of the Year doesn't have to have the best stats every night, but they have to make winning plays. They have to always show up, and they have to make winning plays. I love Josh Hart. He's awesome. He dominated Purdue. It was fun to watch. I love Frank Mason. He's really good. Caleb Swanigan is your National Player of the Year.
Well, I hope you're right. Number one, it's good for the program to have that again. It would be great to see that. But what you're saying about Swanigan, what he did in the final 2 minutes, saved that one pass so that he was on the baseline. You know what he was doing, though? The interesting thing about that pass is he was doing what I have pled with him to do all season, which is recognize the double team and get rid of it.
Kick out.
He was trying to kick out. He just executed poorly and waited a little bit too long. He had 2 or 3 block shots. I don't think statistically he got credit for all the block shots he had. Did.
So I was looking at the play.
He only got 3 blocks in the box score. That's a ridiculous stat.
And one of it, the one block that comes to mind. First of all, the ref.
Oh, from behind.
Incredible. The Vince Edwards one, the LeBron chase down block that Vince Edwards had, which was not a goaltend. He got that fair. It was like LeBron in the finals. It was incredible. Yeah. I had never seen something like that from Vince, right? But I mean, for Swanigan, his 7'5" wingspan. I mean, that's honestly for NBA scouts. We won't get ahead of ourselves here. I'm sure we'll do a full Caleb Swanigan NBA podcast. But for NBA scouts, the biggest thing is defensively. Can Swanigan be a rim protector? The way that Draymond Green works, right, is that he's got the quickness to switch and the strength to switch on anybody. So he doesn't have to be a rim protector, even though he's just about as big as Swanigan. If Swanigan, he will never be that quick. But if he can protect the rim like that, he's got a 7'5" wingspan. If he can protect the rim like that, he's a first-round pick. I mean, without a doubt. Yeah. So I really think that if this dynamic holds, Vince Edwards kind of, being the go-to guy for Purdue and orchestrating everything, and Caleb Swanigan taking care of everything else, I don't know. This team could be dangerous.
Right. Well, that's so when you look at Iowa State, look ahead, the things that I see, the 5 seniors are the thing that stick out more than anything to me.
Yep.
That's really, really tough to overcome, right? Because those guys are generally, they're cool. They handle pressure. And last night, they really did. Iowa State just kind of kept them away, right? And the funny thing is, Nevada got under their skin a couple times, right? Because those guys, I think you've said it, and a couple of friends of mine off of the podcast have said, these guys play with that chip on their shoulder. They play with an edge, which is something interesting, which Purdue really doesn't play with much of an edge ever. No. So you're seeing very, kind of even keel versus very emotional, right?
Yep.
So the interesting thing is, how does Purdue counter that experience? You say it's Vince Edwards. That's the key to the game. That's probably the easy answer. But is there another thing that you could say, okay, well, this will probably, if Purdue is to succeed, what's that one other thing?
So this kind of gets back into our discussion of Haas and Matthias not really showing up. But first, Iowa State has no size. Iowa State has absolutely no size. Right. So this should be creative Caleb Swanigan game. Again, they're going to pack the paint. Every team from here on out is going to pack the paint against Purdue. And so they have to get creative getting the ball inside to the post on a one in single coverage and one-on-one play there where they're not doubling Haas or not doubling Swanigan. And for that to happen, the shooters have to be the shooters got to shoot. The shooters cannot be hesitant. Dakota Matthias can't hesitate to launch some of those shots. Yep. It goes against traditionalist basketball thoughts of the game, right? Where you make 5 passes before you shoot. No, screw it. This team shoots 40% from 3-point range. If you have half a second of daylight, and in addition to shooting 40% from beyond 3-point land, we have the best rebounder in the country.
Clean the glass, right?
Exactly. Just launch it, have the other three go back, the other three wings go back, and have Haas or Swanigan attack the board.
Right.
And regardless of whatever it is, if you have half a second of daylight, launch the three, because this team is so good that they don't need to even think about it. They don't need to think about pass it to the extra man. That's fine. But if you have a half a second of daylight, be selfish. Be selfish. Like a little bit of selfishness is okay. And the second thing that needs to happen, and this kind of transitions to your boy, Monty Morris is incredible. He's Iowa State's guard.
He's what, 6'3", right?
Yeah, I mean, like, he's a big
impossible matchup for anything.
He's a big guard. He's a big kid, but he's there's nothing that can't be taken away. But he fits the kind of mold of players that take over in the tournament, right? These 6'3" guards that are aggressive in the paint. Does Purdue have one of those? Dowdy, does Purdue have a guard that has no conscience and can get to any spot?
I think they do.
Yeah.
So I think they do.
Carson Edwards has got even off the bench. I don't care at this point. Don't change the starting lineup unless things go crazy again for Ryan Klein. 4 fouls and 0 shot attempts. I'm not the biggest Ryan Klein fan, but 4 fouls and no shot attempts, I don't think is going to happen again. But even off the bench,
he's
just
so
give it
quiet,
to him.
And I can't figure it out. It's like, I'll tell you one thing. As much as I'm a Ryan Klein detractor, and I mean that, I don't say that about Purdue players very often. What he did in the offseason gave me the green light to be a detractor, and I hate it that I can't get over it. I can't move on, and I think that was detrimental to him. It was detrimental to the team. And because of that, I've been harder on him than anybody else. You guys have heard me do it, and I continue to it. I want him to be a better guy than what he was off the court, and then I want him to be a badass on the court. And we'll move on. But I haven't seen him. He hasn't proven it to me, right? Whereas Carson Edwards, the Carson Edwards people that have a hard time with the fact that he shoots all the time, they can't look past that. I love the fact that Carson Edwards shoots all the time. I love the fact he does not remember his last shot. Yeah. He just goes, right? It doesn't matter. If he missed or made the previous possession, does he change anything? No. I think he believes in his hands, right? And he believes in his feet. And he's like, I'm going to assess the situation, then I'm going to carve you guys up, right?
I mean, that was the biggest thing. Purdue was up, 7 or 7 or 5. I think Vermont had cut it down to 5. And that was when, we all started to kind of get deja vu. And that was right after that 5-point play where Matthias, it was kind of a BS foul, but where Matthias fouled that 3-point shooter. The guy made 2 free throws. They missed the third one. It went into the hands
right away.
Went into the hands of that Duncan dude. Yeah. And he hit a 3. So all of a sudden, every Purdue fan is frozen. And what does Carson Edwards do? He just grabs the ball, doesn't turn the ball over, even though it was they almost stole the ball.
He waved for help. That was my favorite thing, right? He was in the corner, and their press was set. You're like, if that's PJ Thompson with the ball right then, trouble. It's over. He had the ball underneath, I think, his right side, right? Because he was towards the out-of-bounds line. He waved for help, and then he hit the afterburners, went right up the center of the court. And Molly, I loved it. I was like, he's the one-man break. He's the guy that makes the difference. He's a completely different animal than what we have on that roster anyplace else.
Absolutely. And he made the 2 free throws. That was the other thing.
Which nobody else could do, right? So,
he made the 2 free throws. He was ice. I mean, and so that's the thing. Having Carson Edwards off the bench and having even just the body of Isaac Haas off the bench against a team that doesn't have size. I don't think, I'm looking this up right now, I don't think Iowa State has anybody above 6'10". And so, and I don't think their guy that's 6'10" really plays that much. I think he's a sophomore. So I'm looking at it right now. He's a sophomore that plays 2 minutes a game. So it's like Iowa State doesn't have anybody over 6'8" that gets minutes. So off the bench, leave Ryan.
It's like the old Ohio State teams, right? The really good Mata.
Exactly. Yep. The 7 deep Thad Mata teams that are driven around a guard that, in the Evan Turner era, Ohio State teams. But bring Carson Edwards and Isaac Haas off the bench and just let them have it. Give Carson Edwards complete control and let Isaac Haas, hopefully they bring his hands and feet and he remembers how to use them and they put them on properly.
Right.
But like there's
Assembly's a big deal at that point.
That's right. That's right. It's like IKEA. It's like IKEA furniture.
Yeah. Kind of a special tool.
I don't know. Iowa State doesn't have size, but they have a decent defense and they have a guard that can take over, and that's the formula for the tournament. You can't be a liability defensively, which they're not. They're not great, but they're not Virginia, right? Mm-hmm. And you've got to have a guard. You've got to have a guard that can take over, and Monty Morris is terrifying. He is better Melo Trimble. He can take over a game without even thinking about it. And all of his teammates defer to him. They know he's the guy. And Purdue doesn't have a wing defender that can really stop him unless we put Matthias on him. But even Matthias isn't a stopper. He just kind of he guides.
He's in the right place all the time, right?
Exactly. He doesn't make a mistake. That's the biggest thing. He doesn't make a mistake. And that kind of embodies Purdue's defense this year, is that they're conservative in the fact that they don't play passing lanes. They just let you, they guide you into poor places to shoot on the court, and they let you make your own mistakes.
Right. And compare and contrast. That's the interesting thing. Let's compare and contrast to the guy we were just talking about, Carson Edwards.
Yeah.
He's like the opposite of that, right? He's super aggressive. He makes some fouls where you're like, oh, dude, what were you doing? But you see what he's trying to do. Every time he makes one of those fouls, he's going for the steal, right? He's trying to go for the jugular, but it's hurt him quite a bit, especially in the last couple of games. And he had 4 fouls. And, that was one of my favorite moments of the game last night. He got his 4th foul. Painter looked down at the bench and then looked back at Edwards and kept him in.
Yeah.
And I think he kept him in for like another minute or 2, but it was important. So.
No. That minute, when there's only 10 minutes left in the game, that extra minute is valuable. Right. That's been a big thing about Painter this year. I mean, like we rag on the substitution, the inane substitution patterns that he gets into. But this year, the biggest change that I can see is he lets players play with 3 fouls. Right. Yeah. He doesn't if Biggie and Haas have it going and they grab 2 fouls in the first half, he'll leave them in. Yep. And just that little bit of extra leeway, that's huge. That is absolutely massive.
I got one more thing I want to address right before I know we're about done here. But the one thing I had a friend bring this up to me, and he said the key to that game was, as the game was close in the second half, Purdue couldn't create any space. And we joke about this all the time. Spike Albrecht down his 70-year-old hip and his 20-year-old hip, the other one. He came into the game, and he had a couple deep drives where he went all the way to the hoop and kicked it out to the 3. Did that matter to you at all?
Oh my God. It was incredible. I wrote that in every post game that I have. Spike Albrecht has a bad game. So I always put him in the bad category or the ugly category, right? I was waiting all year to highlight him in the good. He was awesome, especially when Carson Edwards was in foul trouble and Ryan Klein was both in foul trouble and just completely out of it. Spike Albrecht came in and gave Purdue a 5th guy that just solidified the spot. Even Matthias was quiet, but I would say Spike Albrecht played a better game than Dakota Matthias, which is incredible to say.
I would too.
Matthias has been Purdue's second best player all year. And those minutes, I think Spike only logged something like 15 minutes, but 11 minutes.
Important. Yeah.
But those were, especially in the second half, man, he showed up. Maybe he's got some tourney magic in him left. Who knows?
I don't know if you got to see that uninterrupted cell phone video with PJ going around the locker room yesterday or 2 days ago.
I didn't know.
And he went to, I can't remember. I think it was Vince Edwards, but I'm not positive. I think he goes to Vince Edwards. He goes, "Who's the best point guard you've ever played with?" And he says, it's obviously a setup. And he's supposed to say PJ Thompson. And instead he says, "Oh, that's got to be Spike." And PJ goes, "Oh man." It was hilarious. And then he said, "I'm just kidding, man. You're the man, PJ," something like that. And then they went over to Spike and PJ says, "Hey, Spike, got any more tournament magic? You're the guy. You're the guy we've been waiting for is Spike Albrecht in March, right?" And Spike's kind of like, whatever. But It matters, right? There are some parts on this team that really are very good for this time of year. Let's hope they all come together at the right time, and we are witnessing a change in Purdue basketball culture. And I mean that. I'm not overstriding when I say you can change the culture of a program with just a couple more wins. It doesn't have to be a national title.
After a season like this, with a National Player of the Year, with a team that's exciting and shoots 40% from three-point land, with an irrational confidence guy off the bench, that I think one of these years, whether it's this year, next year, whatever, like the nation will fall in love with Carson Edwards and the crazy things that he does on a basketball floor. He's the perfect kind of guy, like you were saying, those UConn guards. He is cut from that mold, that same mold, like Shabazz Napier
cloth mold, there, isn't it?
Right?
Man.
So it's like they have Caleb Swanigan, who's just all business. Vince Edwards is all business. They have this irrational confidence guy off the bench. It's like there are these pieces. They have this mammoth coming off the bench, a 7'3" mammoth coming off the bench. I don't know. It especially against Iowa State and even against Kansas. That's the thing, is that right here, this draw for a 4-5 is so friendly to Purdue, right? Because Iowa State doesn't have any bigs. Kansas doesn't have any bigs. So it's like I don't know. Purdue is set up, and it's just Sweet 16. Just get to the Sweet 16. That's all we need to get us a Kansas matchup. That's all we need.
That's right. Then you're dealing house money. Nobody expects Purdue. I got to tell you, the funny thing is the media, every year we deal with this as Purdue fans, and I'm not sure this is something that every team like Purdue deals with, where you're not a sexy team that the media loves. But every year when Purdue gets in the tournament, they are playing one of those teams that people are like, there's my upset. It's Vermont. It's whoever, right? Every year. And so getting past that was a big deal, right? So, man, I hope these guys come in feeling as good as I do right now.
Well,
right?
So I know that I will feel less nervous about Iowa State and even Kansas. If Kansas is
I feel ridiculously easy.
At ease. I mean, the Vermont game was just so tense, man. Like, I was so tense for that. I just wanted – because on one hand, I just wanted to see another win, like in March from Purdue. And on the other, I was already tired of the conversations we would have
all
if
of us.
Purdue would lose. Exactly. And like everybody.
For me, that's the thing. Everybody, who's heard our podcast has heard me get negative every now and again. But the things that Nish and Justin and Michael have had to endure this season with, from me alone, I mean, I feel like, I'm horrible. When things get bad on this team, I am such a bad fan and I'm such a drag. I'm the worst guy to be around. And you at least got a minute of reprieve from that, which is awesome. So congratulations to you, not dealing with me.
Thank you.
Sucked.
No, and it was it's just a relief. It really like even just one win. I think even off of Painter, off of all of the guys on this team, just logging a win is the biggest thing that could have been done. I think that was. The rest of this, I think, will be played a lot more relaxed. So I don't know. We'll see you on Saturday, I guess.
That's right. Well, Anish has a real job. He's an important guy. Many circles really respect him. Not at Boiled Sports, by the way. He's not respected.
Many people respect me. Right.
Right. I've got my phone ringing. That's probably work related. So I think the best thing we can do right now is probably close this thing down. Leave the listeners a little something to want. They want more, right? They've had a taste.
Just wet the palate. The palate.
Delicious podcast today, Anish. And sorry about my phone again.
No, that was the timer going off. That's the timer.
That's right.
We got to go.
Yep. So thanks everybody for tuning in to the Boiled Sports Handsome Hour basketball beat. What'd you call it? The Boiled Short podcast. Boiled Shorts podcast, a nooner. Just before the tip-offs of the second day of the NCAA tournament. Merry Christmas to you and your family. This is the best time of the year. I hope you enjoy it today. I will enjoy it even more at ease than yesterday because I was throwing up much of the day. I needed it, honestly. You don't. I losing a couple pounds wasn't a bad thing for me.
That's.
But thanks for tuning in to Anish and Boiler Dowd here, venting a little bit, looking ahead a little bit. We appreciate it, and we appreciate you reading the site, boiledsports.com. It's BS all the time here, right, Anish?
Yes, sir. BS all the time.
All right. We'll talk to you soon.